As we embark on the eve of the White House Crypto Summit, there's a few people. The list has actually been confirmed. And while one big name that everyone assumed and thought was going to be on there was not on there, and to which he did an AMA yesterday, or a YouTube video, and talked about exactly why and what it means. We have the confirmed list, the breakdown. Why is Bitcoin dumping? What is going on with tariffs? Is it macro? Is it crypto? Is it Bitcoin? Are we going to see a rebound soon? Also, a blast from the past as we officially, for the first time in 2 years, have heard from one of crypto's largest villains. If you're wondering what Sam Bankman-Fried has been up to, we have the answers for you. We're going to talk about that. We also have Drew from Blockchain Basement joining us. In about 30 minutes, we'll get his insight and thoughts on the markets and what are some nice trade setups. We talked about it last night in the evening stream. We'll go over those today, how those played out. We have that and much, much more on today's episode of Sin City Crypto. Let's go.
Hola! It's your boy, Big Rob, back in the house. Welcome to Sin City Crypto, home of the entertainment-focused cryptocurrency content where we take old, boring, and stale co-hosts and elevate them up to G status. You know what?
Yeah, because we all want to be like you, Rob.
That's right.
Yeah. Ashley, you want to be like Robin too, right? Yeah.
Every day.
Yearning for that, man. I wish. Dude,
wow.
I wish. Yeah.
Really, really wish.
I like how you start the show by just taking a shot at me and Ashley. You know?
Like what I do.
What did we do?
Not a shot. Facts.
Right.
Also,
A reality check.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. We here.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Yes.
Rocco's in the G Club too. What's up, Rocco?
That's it. What's going on,
Oh,
man?
goody.
That's my boy.
What's with the evil laugh? What's
Ashley went from
Looks nice.
Ashley went from Pepto-Bismol to Robitussin today.
Robitussin.
What is it going to be tomorrow? Claritin?
Do you know all the medicine, eh?
Am I
Wow.
even like
I do have
allowed to
kids.
wear shirts? Like this is stupid.
No, you're definitely allowed to wear shirts for sure.
Okay. I
Also-
wear black and I blend in.
Fair enough. Is there any black medication? I don't think so. Anyways, I saw a name in the chat. Government Bowel Movement Tracker. Interesting.
I really like that name.
Very interesting. Curious to know who exactly are you tracking? Is this an actual portfolio? All right, let's start here. So yesterday, we shared a list that ended up being not true. It was put in many publications. It seemed to have been posted by some of the more credible publications. And then today we got actual confirmation from David Sachs, the AI and crypto czar of the White House, essentially confirming one list from one Eleanor Tourette. And there was one person that we all expected got the invite, was going to go, and that was Charles Hoskinson, and he was not invited. Not only was he not invited, but no one from the Cardano Foundation or the ecosystem was invited. Obviously, you would assume if anyone from Cardano, it's going to be Charles.
I only saw one person that was head of a blockchain, right?
So here's a list, okay? So this is David Sachs. He said, most of the invite lists circling on X are fake, but this looks correct, okay? And he reposted this from Eleanor Tourette, but he said, though it's not yet complete. So here's the list. Brad Garlinghouse.
That was the only blockchain person I saw.
No, there was Chainlink, Sergey.
Oh, yeah.
Sergey Nazarov.
But Sergey came out and said he don't even want a reserve. You see that?
No. He did?
Yeah. He basically said he doesn't trust a crypto reserve because he feels like it's messing up decentralization. And I don't know if he posted it himself or if it was a repost of his. I don't know. Either way, he came out and said he's not in favor of a crypto reserve, right? I think he more or less said that's kind of what Bitcoin's for, and that it messes up decentralization if the government has. Well, let me see if I can find it real quick.
You agree with that? How does it mess up decentralization if they... So can you argue that Michael Saylor and Strategy buying 500,000 Bitcoin messes up decentralization?
Well, I think it's sufficiently decentralized at this point, and that controlling Bitcoin doesn't give you more or less control of the network. And then I think if the U.S. government has, let's just say, 15% of a layer one blockchain, there's situation where the U.S. government could have influence on decisions, right? Whether if it's through staking and voting. I mean, obviously you have voting power. We saw that Cardano did have, or Charles had spat with the IOHK or the Cardano Foundation?
Cardano Foundation.
The Cardano Foundation. And a lot of it came off of the back that the Cardano Foundation had a massive sway in voting power because of how much, of the ADA tokens they had. And so could you find yourself in the same situation if the U.S. holds, say, 15% of circulating supply of Cardano? I just a loose number I just randomly threw out there. But, I mean, obviously, it does call into question the value of decentralization when it comes to is a government holding the largest amount of a token, especially if there's voting.
But can't you argue that a large institution could do the same? BlackRock, if they decided, can go out and buy.
But they have to go out and physically buy that amount of money.
Well,
and so who can buy more than the U.S. government? That's the big question, right? I mean, the government's gonna leapfrog a MicroStrategy almost immediately, right? And so they'll have, if there was voting in Bitcoin, they would have more voting power than the largest company immediately, right? And that's not even, we're not even talking, 4 years down their line, if the Bitcoin Reserve bill passes that Cynthia Lummis has drafted, if that does, the U.S. government would own 1 million Bitcoin, and holding 1 million Bitcoin, that's 1/20th of the network. And so how can anyone compete with that? You can't. Now, what happens if all of a sudden China decides they want to buy 20% of a layer one? Say they want 20% of Ethereum, right? They go out and buy a giant amount of ETH tokens. And in doing so, they can control the network, sabotage it, and for, whatever, what I mean? Like, use your own brain. Like, you are messing with decentralization when you talk about these large swaths of coins. It brings up a good point.
You can say that about, but again, you can say that about
anything but Bitcoin. Yes, 100%. And that's what Sergey's saying. Like, he's saying that, like, hey, anything other than Bitcoin, decentralization is at risk with the U.S. government holding a reserve of it.
Okay, and so in your theory, then
it's not my theory; it's Sergey's theory.
Okay, so then that theory, then proof of work coins are fine. Caspa, Litecoin.
But if you hold enough, you can still compromise the network with 51% attacks.
You can do that with Bitcoin.
Stuff. Yeah, and also if you hold a certain amount, I mean, you can kind of flex on people, right? I mean, like, hey, you can say, miners, you need to vote for, a BIP protocol 225, or we're selling all our Bitcoin. What do you think the miners are going to do? So just because it's proof of work does not make it free of manipulation. If you control a massive amount of network and you can just dump the tokens, crash the whole damn thing. I mean, imagine if there's a strategic reserve for XRP. Let's just hypothetically say that, right? Huge reserve. And then all of a sudden the U.S. gets in a spat with Brad Garlinghouse or XRP, whatever it is. What do you think happens if Donald Trump comes out and says, hey, we're gonna liquidate all of our XRP. We're selling it. What happens? You know what happens, bro. The price is going to absolutely tank. And so what do you think happens if the United States government or Donald Trump or the SEC or the CFTC or whoever it is, some branch threatens XRP and says, hey, look, you need to do this, right? You need to sanction these countries. You can't do this. We need to KYC all your customers. And they're like, no. Like, all right, well, we're going to dump all your reserves. The decentralization is more than just like, hey, you know what? There's validated by the blockchain. No, you got a lot of power if you hold 10% of a project, bro.
And again, that the U.S. government buying it that's available to do. Period. Now,
but nobody else can do that. That's what I'm saying.
BlackRock is worth $11 trillion. I'm sure if they wanted 15% of the Cardano tokens, they can buy them. Same thing with Solana. Same thing with literally everything.
The thing is it's not if they can. I agree if they wanted to, but the reality of it is they don't. They haven't, and they at this moment, they currently don't own it. But the reality is the United States government is going to buy a large percentage of XRP, going to buy a large percentage of Cardano, going to buy. This is not like, well, they could buy. Like, they've already announced it. Donald Trump announced it. So he will be probably the largest holder, United States will be the largest holder of Cardano, XRP, Solana, ETH, and what am I missing here? Bitcoin. And so if they want these made in the US blockchains to comply with them, you better comply or they're going to boot you out of the reserve and tank your project.
So you're not bullish on a crypto reserve like you were a week ago?
I didn't say I wasn't. I just said that it's very interesting what Sergey brought up. I'll be honest with you, if you want my perspective, I love it because the price goes up. It brings more attention. I'd like to think that the government's going to do right. But, I mean, at the same time, you got to think realistically. Is the government always worked in the best interest of the people, or have they looked out for themselves? Has Donald Trump ever threatened another country and said, I will crash your own economy to get what I want? You don't think he'll crash his own one of the crypto projects that he has in his reserve to get what he wants? I mean, just think for 1 second, if one of these blockchains starts working with, Zelensky, right? And then Zelensky and Donald Trump's relationship falls even further, right? They end up becoming enemies. What do you think happens if there's like a sanction on Zelensky? Trump and Zelensky are enemies now, and Zelensky is now, and there's sanctions brought up against Ukraine. What happens if Zelensky is using ETH to circumvent sanctions that Donald Trump has? What do you think Donald Trump's going to do? He's going to blindly just threaten the crap of selling, crashing, banning ETH to get what he wants. I just say, man, and then especially if you forecast out 4 years from now, God forbid, the Republicans lose the Senate, the House, the executive branch, and in comes a Democratic regime, and we get something similar to what we saw before with Biden. That happens, and they have the power to dump what's in the reserve because they don't agree with it. It's gonna be a real bloody time there, right?
Yeah.
I just say that, man, if you're gonna include politics into crypto, there's an upside when you buy it, but if you sell it, there's also a massive downside.
That's what I've said about Saylor and the amount of Bitcoin they buy. Say at some point it becomes a risk, right? And but you can say that about anything. The only problem is, right?
But at least
look at the stock market, okay?
But at least Saylor isn't threatening other companies maliciously. He's not trying to take down. My thing is that politics, they like to throw the weight around, right? What happened as soon as Russia invaded Ukraine? They just sanctioned everything, right? They closed bank accounts. They seized bank accounts. Like, it was a full-on economic attack. And if crypto is a major part of the economy of a government, if Russia has their own strategic reserve with the ETH and Solana in there, what do you think happens there if there's another war and there's sanctions to be made? Like,
it is you look at the stock market, okay? You have companies like BlackRock that own a large percentage of a certain company, right? BlackRock owns 10% of Microsoft. So they have a lot of voice and power. I think the only difference here is the whole idea of, well, it becomes less decentralized. They have more sway. BlackRock has sway in what Microsoft does. BlackRock has sway in what Coca-Cola does. With the theory of what Sergey is saying, if Michael Saylor decides to put pressure on, let's say, the Bitcoin miners to do the scenario you said, pass this Bitcoin improvement proposal, or I'm dumping all of it, you could say the same thing. And so when you have a free market,
but BlackRock holds them in on behalf of their customers. So, like,
I said MicroStrategy, not BlackRock.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I referenced BlackRock to the stock market and how they sway and control decisions. with the amount of stock they hold in companies like Microsoft, Coca-Cola, all the blue chips. So the problem is you can't have a free market, just like we didn't like the fact that Pump.Fun was launched and people were live streaming illegal shit, creating meme coins and making money off them, correct? But we all agreed that it's not something.
I personally didn't care.
You didn't care that a guy literally killed himself on a live show? And then said make a meme out of it?
I think that the problem is not to shut out and condemn it as bad, right? I've had a gambling problem. I don't want them to close casinos. People have killed themselves because they have gambling problems. They've lost money. And it doesn't mean I want them to close casinos. People have issues. They need to go out and get them treated. If you have a mental health problem, you should go seek medical advice. And just because one person had committed suicide because they lost $500, I think that the problem is a lot bigger than Pump.Fun for that individual. I'm sure he did not have a perfect life and everything was sunshine and rainbows. And then the day he lost $500, he killed himself. And it's squarely on the shoulders of there. You know what? My heart goes out to anybody with mental issues. Suicide is serious, but to look at one case and say, look, this person had an issue with the platform, committed suicide, we need to ban it. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You know what? If you lose in a sport and you kill yourself, we're not banning the sport. If you lose money in the casino, don't shut down the casinos. Like. And Pump.Fun is exactly that. You know what? If you're going into Pump.Fun and you're putting your life savings into a meme coin, then that's on you, man. We're not over here holding people's hands. If you decide to go sell your house, take all the money and go to the roulette table, that is on you. If you want to take your money and give it to some scammer overseas in some Middle Eastern country or India and you got duped, that's on you, bro. Let's not shut down the telephone network. Let's not shut down international calls. Let's not say, hey, we're not going to accept any calls from India because they scam people in America. Like, at the end of the day, like, stop it, bro. You know, like, if people want to launch meme coins, you want to have a platform that launches meme coins, cool. Have at it. You want to go buy some dumb shit and get burned? That's on you. Learn your lesson. I learned plenty of my lessons, and that's why I'm at where I'm at. I have learned through my failures. It has made me a stronger person. I don't need no participation trophy. You know what? You got to lose a bunch of games. You got to lose a season. You got to lose over and over and over and over again before you appreciate a win. And it makes you stronger, bro.
Okay. I have no idea what I was going, but okay. All right. So you might be wondering, why are prices dumping? Well, you figure this is good news, but I guess the market said, no, it's not. It's bad news, but dump everything. Trump calls off the tariffs of Mexico until April 2nd. For any goods that fall under USMCA. No idea what that stands for. So this was his post after speaking with President Claudia Sheinbaum of Mexico. I've agreed that Mexico will not be required to pay tariffs on anything that falls under the USMCA agreement. This agreement is until April 2nd. I did this as an accommodation and out of respect for President Sheinbaum. My relationship has been a very good one, and we are working hard together on the border, both in terms of stopping illegal aliens and entering the United States, likewise stopping fentanyl. Thank you to President Sheinbaum for your hard work and your cooperation. And, well, the S&P tanked. You take a look, it's from the Kobe AC letter. The S&P 500 ETFs, put options, that volume spiked to $7.94 million of contracts on Tuesday, the third highest on record, the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement. Okay, so it's kind of like NAFTA, but the new NAFTA. So put options, if you're not familiar, is just like shorting. You want the price of the stock or the asset to go down. You put in a put option. And so those have spiked. And I don't have this up now, but I can pull it up. CNBC.com. Let's take a look at where the markets are. Dow is down. It says Dow is down 550 points.
The NASDAQ is getting crushed. The Dow's down a lot. S&P's down, but the NASDAQ is just get hammered. Almost down 3%, bro. The last time it was down this far, it was back in, I think it was September. Everything is reversed. And I'll be honest with you, the fact that Bitcoin is even at 88,000 with the pullback that we saw in the NASDAQ is actually bullish for me. I'll be honest with you. The fact that we have an $88,000 Bitcoin currently, if you would have told me, hey man, the NASDAQ's going to sell off 3% today, I'd be like, whip, here we come to 70,000. But we're at 88. And so the price of crypto wants to go up. It's just getting hammered by the NASDAQ and the U.S. markets, man.
I was trying to find the total value of the NASDAQ. Trying to find, I don't know where to look though. But either way, a 3% move doesn't sound like a lot, but we're talking tens of trillions of dollars of value. And so you subtract 3% of that in one single trading day, that is an absolutely massive number. Now, there are some correlations to the DXY, some potential canaries in the coal mine, so to say. Bullish catalyst, potentially. We'll see how it works out. But one thing I do want to share.
Do you think, and I know you're about to talk about tariffs, but do you think that Trump will see the stock market go in the direction it is, and he'll kind of reverse tariffs, or do you think he's just going to full send and just get what he wants with tariffs, regardless of what it does to the economy?
So happy you asked that. Look at this chart. In green, Trump tariffs 1.0 from his first administration. In red, Trump tariffs 2.0. Look at the correlation on that. So it's very easy to sit there and say, yeah, we saw pain, but Mr. President, look what happened in 2016 and 2020. We saw a little bit of a dip, and then we reached new all-time highs, right? From a low of around $98 to $111, okay? So I've talked about this multiple times on this very show, on the evening stream. We've already seen how this plays out previously. Now, I know every time there's different things, different people. He's got different voices in his ear. He's got different cabinet members. Maybe presidents of some of the countries are different than who he negotiated with in the prior administration. So there's definitely different variables. But historically, the markets get scared. They get shaken out until they see a more clear path of, okay, this country's going to do this. It looks like this country. And then they start speculating there. When he's when he's cutting through everything with a serrated knife and no one knows where it's going to stop or who's going to get poked. And so
the last tariffs were on China. And so this time around, it's our biggest trade partners, which are Canada and Mexico. So I think that this time it's a little bit more spooky. And the thing was that he did put tariffs on China. And he did scale them back a little bit in the same way that we saw here. But the thing is that Donald Trump this time around is not letting go of the fact that he's just going to stop the tariffs. He's just delaying them, right? And even the if it's part of the North American trade agreement with that, he's basically saying like, hey, we'll pause the tariffs, and in 1 month we'll be back on, right? Come April, tariffs will still be here. So he's just kind of kicking the can down the road. So that's why I don't think we're really seeing a reversal at this point. Is because of the simple fact that, like, hey, it's different this time around. It's basically where I'm trying to get at. I think that with the tariffs last time, just being China, it's got a different feel this time around. And there were certain things that got tariffed last time. It wasn't just a blanket across the board. For China, they had tariffed like washing machines, for example. Not the dryers. Don't ask me why, but they did just the washing machines, not the dryers. They did automotive and other things. And so this time around, it's hitting different, man. It's hitting different. That's all I'm kind of saying. I did want to give a little quick update though. The markets are looking very interesting. So taking a look at Bitcoin, we're kind of at this pivotal moment right now at this 88,000. And so, are we gonna bounce back? I would say that probably keep a close eye on the NASDAQ. I think that's, if we can get a reversal in the NASDAQ, say by the end of the trading day, we could close a little higher. I would feel a lot more comfortable with Bitcoin rebounding if the NASDAQ does. And typically when you had these big sell-offs and the traditional markets, in the trading day, like let's just say the S&P 500 downturns 2-3%, like the NASDAQ is now, a lot of times you'll see before the close, you'll get a big rally and a recovery. And so that's that's kind of my take there. But the altcoins, and there we are, right at 88,000 flat. So let's see if we bounce back here. And then looking at the biggest gainers, you have Move, which was something that has gotten a lot of attention lately because World Liberty Finance is getting in behind Move. And then Kronos, which the crypto.com CEO will be at the attendance at the White House tomorrow. I think that is the big reason that this is rallying the way it is. And also, World Liberty Finance is partnering with SWE as far as a decentralized platform as well. And then also Near Protocol, and I think that's off of the back that Andreessen Horowitz will be at the meeting as well, or he's suspected to be there. I'll have to take a look, but not entirely too sure. And then lastly, let's take a quick peek. You do also have XRP still in the green today. And so XRP here at $2.50 and performing pretty well. You know what? I mean, with Bitcoin down the way it is, still at that $2.50 level, I am pretty confident that we'll go into tomorrow closer to the $3. And it's official. Bitcoin has lost the $88,000 support level. How long will we be under here? That is something we'll keep a close eye on.
Did you talk about, I know you brought up SWE. Did you talk about the partnership with World Liberty Financial?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then there was another one. There's one more you mentioned.
You have Move as well.
I was looking into Move.
So World Liberty Finance is also buying Move. They bought a lot. They bought a giant position there. And then also you had
Move raised a lot of money. They're an ETH sidechain essentially. They're an ETH sidechain.
Yeah, you also had Kronos because the
CEO.
Yeah. And then I did find that I know it was a little late here, but I did find this video here. I'll just play this for you real quick. Let me see if my volume is turned up. Yeah. All right, so here we go.
And so the question there is, how does reserve composed of these various tokens give you that greater assurance of being protected and inversely correlated and diversified against these other events? And it seems like the general idea right now is to have an index, right? So you have an index of tokens that basically create an inverse correlation on a holistic industry basis rather than just through Bitcoin. But Bitcoin does have a very clear thesis that it is inversely correlated with certain events in the state actor world, how the traditional financial system is developing. So I would view a crypto reserve as a mechanism for diversification and a way to create an asset backstop for the U.S. economy, U.S. financial system, U.S. dollar, and so on.
So that was his thoughts there. In another part of that, he was, discussing what we were talking about earlier. But,
before I bring on Drew, I do want to show a couple of charts that we shared yesterday on the evening stream. We talked about this potential rising wedge breaking to the downside, which it did. We also talked about Near Protocol. To those of you that joined me yesterday, this would have been a nice long setup, although the markets have turned. And I believe this was on the daily that we looked at. Was it on the daily or was it on the weekly? It was on the weekly. No, it was on the daily. So it was on the daily. We talked about breaking above this trend line. There we go. Talked about breaking above this trend line, getting a confirmation on the retest, essentially a bump and run, and entering on this candle. Now, if you would have entered on this candle, it would have been at $2.96. You got to a high of around $3.25. If you took profit, great, you made money. But I think honestly, if the overall macro and crypto trend was up, I think Near Protocol would be going through a breakout right now. So some things to keep in mind. We do have a special guest joining us. It is none other. I was on his show yesterday. It is none other. You made the big screen, baby. How you feeling, man? Welcome to the show, Drew.
I'm feeling larger than life right now. Thanks for having me, guys. I like that you're covering chain link. Near Protocol. Near makes me think Near had such a good time in March of 2024, and that was kind of like the glimpse I felt like of the larger altcoin season to come. Now, when it comes to Near, it was, it's almost like AI adjacent, But we've seen some things like AI agents that are like actual, more tangible AI connections. I do wonder if we're going to see like an ICP near run up again. I mean, trading them last year was very profitable, but man, the AI sector, it's almost like trying to chase the. When I was a kid, I would get a PlayStation 2, and then all of a sudden PlayStation 3 came out, and then I'd save up for the PlayStation 3. All of a sudden, PlayStation 4 is out. You know, I almost feel like that's kind of what it feels like.
It's almost like it's an Apple product, you know.
Almost, you know.
I think Near was late to the AI agent party, and by the time they started gaining some market share there, or even attempting to, it was too late. That narrative kind of died off. I kind of want to get your thoughts on the markets currently, and Bitcoin is trading at 88.1. Where do you see this thing going? You got the ETF, you got the big summit tomorrow. I actually expected more of a rally today and then a dump tomorrow. I think Rob is expecting the same thing. Well, what are your thoughts?
I was actually, my hope was to rally a little bit early. I did a really good long yesterday. I made like 200% off of two different trading accounts. I was like, I full clipped on 32X yesterday, and I was hoping for a little bit of a simmer down today in hopes that we go into the summit tomorrow low under 90K and then rally above and beyond. Really, the main target that I have out of tomorrow is 96K.
So you think we're going to get a rally tomorrow?
I do think, and there's a lot of resistance / volume node action at 96.6. So it's going to be a tough hurdle to overcome. It'll be shocking if we do overcome it. But really, I think that there's going to be quite a lot of realization that Bitcoin is here to stay. Texas, right earlier before we went live, I just recorded, Texas actually has moved its Bitcoin state reserve to the House for the final vote there. Yeah. North Carolina's moving forward, New Hampshire, all kinds of states are front running the U.S. Michael Saylor's smiling ear to ear. He's got this grin like he knows exactly what's coming. It's kind of a sneaky little look he's got on his face right now. So I do think tomorrow is going to end up being giga bullish, but we got a lot of ground to make up, man. We've been falling from 109, and I'm not going to stop seeing bear posts until we break above and beyond 109, which I understand. It's almost the same chop zone and losing important 200 MAs that we saw at the previous all-time highs, right? There's a lot of concern. We had accomplished that all-time high too early. It's a shortened cycle. Now we're heading back down. I think the cycle in larger aspects has changed to a pretty strong degree. Now, and really I hate to say this, but max pain might just be up only for Bitcoin with slight retracements here and there. And altcoins, I think, will follow kind of more closely to the 4-year cycle. But my max pain is not seeing Bitcoin fall back down to previously established all-time highs, because it was so easy over the past few cycles to trade it. When I saw it drop down to 17K, 16K, it was so easy to full clip back into it and add to the position. Now, in theory, if the 4-year cycle would follow itself, we should fall back down to 65, 60K in 2026. But do we really expect, because we got to think about this. It's going to take about a year for the U.S. to get this. Even if they said yes today, it's going to take a year for them to set up the treasury to start buying this 200,000 Bitcoin per year. And if we're expecting Bitcoin to go into a bear market while the U.S. government is buying 200,000 Bitcoin a year, we really got to start thinking about that logically. Is that reasonable to expect?
That doesn't really make sense, right? It's not.
It doesn't make much sense.
Yeah, and we all joke around and say, "Oh, this time is different," but actually, this time really is different. And so I'm in the camp of we've seen an accelerated cycle. Okay.
Yeah,
we're about 7 months ahead, right? If you take a look at where we have the all-time high versus the halving, and then when we typically get our highs. I think we're in this region where we see mini cycles. Right now, maybe we're in a mini bear cycle, and then we start getting into a mini bull cycle, and then we see the natural retracements. But instead of being drawn out in 4 years and 4 years, maybe it's 12 months to 18 months or 6 to 12 months. And so that is, to me, at least personally, that's on the table for me. And so there's just too much bullish narratives and catalysts that could potentially directly affect the price. And I call them tangible catalysts, not just words or news, but that people can that people can draw the conclusion that, okay, this is going to directly have an impact and effect on the price, right? It's not like we're building this to do this. No, we're buying Bitcoin.
Right.
And so
we started talking about AI and, what's the relationship with AI and Bitcoin, right? We got to think about this again, logically. Like, is AI going to accept payment in fiat currencies? Like, AI is expanding at an exponential rate. We can tell there's going to be over $10 trillion put by the US in AI infrastructure. It makes sense for corporations because they can lessen their amount of manpower and increase their bottom line. And operating AI systems, I have kind of this funny GIF or meme on my computer screen right now. It's me paying the Terminator a Bitcoin to get off my lawn so it doesn't eliminate me. And this is something that's been on my computer for years, and it didn't really make sense to people when I first came out with it because, the idea that these AI systems, at the rate that they're learning and expanding and how close we are becoming to a self-aware AI system, and all of these AI agents, they're not going to accept anything. Like, crypto is the currency of AI. And so as I see that expanding, then this mini kind of seasonal cycle thing you mentioned, there's a lot to be said for that. I mean, we saw an AI agent cycle in and of itself that everyone's like, oh my gosh, this is the, AI agent only bull market. That's gone. We saw the meme coin super cycle. That's gone. It seems to be coming in waves, and it really is hard for me to pick one AI winner. So like, I don't own any, but I own ASI Fetch, that kind of larger one. But Tensor Tau is very interesting to me as an AI play, something that kind of is broad reaching across AI systems. But really, man, like straight up Bitcoin, the proof of work, and then tangible value that's peer-to-peer, the biggest system on the planet. It's pretty easy to just buy Bitcoin and hold it, and have a long-term vision of like 10 to 20 years because the system is upgrading. And, not only is it different on the strategic reserve side, but it is different on, how people are going to earn a living. Like, people need to think about that, how these systems are automating our day-to-day jobs. And what are you going to do to outpace that replacement of the workforce? That's something I'm thinking about very carefully. Something I got to make clear to people. So,
yeah, we actually, we were able to front run that AI narrative fairly well, and AI agents. And it just, people got to understand things go in cycles. You see these 70, 80% drawdowns. And then if the narrative holds, or if the sector that it's in, it continues to grow, then you'll see a resurgence and a kind of reset of the money. The blue chips, the ones that continue to build, will continue to rise. And the vaporware, we're going to do this, but we're not ready yet, those will eventually trend to zero, and you'll get new players that come in, taking a look at what the previous batch of AI agents or AI coins did, what can be improved on, and then launching those products and services. I want to shift over a little bit to macro here. So I mentioned at the very beginning of the show, the dollar index, the Dixie, right? So falling US dollar is signaling a strong quarter for crypto. It's according to Raoul Pal. With the dollar rates and oil headed lower, financial conditions are now easing fast and lead risk assets by a couple of months, he said in a post on X on March 5th. It comes only a day after Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent expressed his vision to reduce U.S. interest rates. And you take a look at the DXY, it's been bleeding. This is on the daily. It got to a high of around 107. It's currently trading at 103. So this is in a clear downtrend for the Dixie. And so I'm not going to do it now, but when you look at correlation of Bitcoin and even stocks to the dollar index, as the dollar gets weaker, risk on assets grow. You do have some stuff happening in Japan with the yen carry trade that really destroyed the Japanese stock market in August of last year. And then the Bank of Japan had to completely reverse their hiking of interest rates. So a lot of people are looking at this like, they're talking about hiking rates again. So I think there's just a lot going on the macro side that has a lot of people scared or at the very least sidelined. What are your thoughts on the Dixie falling? And do you kind of agree with Raoul Pyle that Q1 kind of was a bummer, price action wise? We had only the 3rd February ever where it closed red for Bitcoin. Do you think Q2 is setting up for a big relief rally and maybe like new all-time highs?
Well, I think, losing that kind of historical pump in February is more data that validates your original thesis you had brought up, where we are looking at a different type of cycle. But really, the yen carry trade, we got to remember that brought Bitcoin down to $49,000. And then Crypto Savvy was bragging about, I told you 10K is coming in and all these things. And obviously the rest is history. They lower rates and keep the can kicking the can down the road. But in essence, here's what I think is going to happen. Outside of all that data, what we are entering into is a new era of stagflation. And there's going to be levers that the Treasury and the Federal Reserve are going to pull to kick the U.S. economy out of stagflationary pressures. But we have kind of multiple aspects of, our commercial real estate holdings and the securities of them are dragging banks into deep red territory. I mean, I think it's like $500 or $600 billion in unrealized losses right now that the small to medium-sized banks are sitting on from commercial real estate losing an immense amount of value. Now, in March of 2023, I think it was, that was another time where the bears thought they won because the Silicon Valley Bank went under. Yeah, and USDC depegged because there's a few $1 billion of Circle's stash was in this bank at the time. So we depegged down to 87 cents, but immediately recovered. What happened was these banks took $2.6 trillion in emergency loans from the Treasury on the grandfathered idea that the commercial real estate they were sitting on was at the valuations pre-COVID. And let's say, for example, you had a commercial real estate location at $100 million. At the current time when they took those emergency loans, they were right around $60 million in aggregate. They lost a good amount of value. And the Treasury gave these loans out, assuming that the banks and their commercial real estate would return to those previous valuations. Guess what? It continued to go downwards. So now these banks are sitting looking down the barrel of $2.6 trillion in emergency loan debt, not to mention the other debt that is due back. And $1 trillion of it's actually due back on March 10th in 4 days from now. So when I see this, I see major pain, not only for the real estate market, the stagflation we see lots of real estate going for availability in Texas and Florida, some of the biggest markets. And I see buying opportunity. I think that what we are going to witness is Bitcoin's standard, actually not standard, a great bull market. And then the values of these real estate locations not continuing to go up at breakneck speed, but basically stagnating because the buyers are exhausted. And these lower interest rates that the banks are receiving are not being passed over to the consumer that's taking the mortgages out. That's something very key that people don't understand, is that the banks are getting these loans from the Treasury at a lower rate, or the Fed, but they're not passing that savings over to the consumer to really kickstart the economy. They're just basically getting bailed out internally by the Fed. So macroeconomically, I think that we are in for essentially gold to skyrocket, Bitcoin to skyrocket, real estate not give people the haircut that they're hoping for, but also stagnate, and cash buyers being able to come in and buy things on the cheap. And I do see some of the smartest people in the industry buying up real estate in flyover states right now, because what's happening is people are fleeing expensive locations to places like Ohio or Idaho. Very
ain't
cheap
nobody
locations.
ain't nobody moving to Ohio. Okay.
I'm telling you, they are, because
Who's
people
moving
can't
to Ohio?
afford their life. People can't afford the insurance rates that have happened in California. See, that's the
They're
key,
all
is
coming
like
to Vegas, bro.
insurance
Trust
rate.
me. You know how bad traffic's gotten here with these Californians? They can't even drive, man.
They're
But
leaving,
it's a beautiful
man. They're
country,
leaving.
or place, right?
I mean, Vegas is kind of an interesting one because it's the entertainment district. People love to entertain themselves and kind of escape during times like this. But I see a major opportunity to transfer altcoins into real estate in what we call flyover states. And I think people are going to flee to those affordability locations. I myself, I mean, just for a quick example, like I was pretty well off in Colorado, but I have had twins born. So I had now 4 children. And 1 week of daycare for the twins, just themselves, is $1,200 a week, right? Yeah. So when you think about that, the average person, like, thank God I bought my house in 2019. I got it for like a 2.5% interest rate. And then I got the one out here in Georgia for about, I think, 3.2% interest rate. So really great rates. But the average person is out here signing up for houses at 5%, 6%, maybe even 7% interest rates on their homes. And they're getting crushed, man. Like, this is, we're not really exposed to the pain because we're in crypto and we're more financially savvy. But families are losing the ability to afford their insurance rates, their daycare cost, healthcare costs. Things are getting very, very tight for the average person. And that's half of the reason why I feel so inclined to come, like my show, The Blockchain Basement. I saw some people asking, who the hell is this guy? I run the Blockchain Basement. And that is half of the reason why I feel so driven to talk about Bitcoin and how to outpace inflation, because it is causing a lot of pain for the average person, especially families here in the U.S.
Yeah, I think you're pretty spot on with everything you said. By the way, we do have a link to Drew's channel, Blockchain Basement, in the description of the video. Drew, before I let you go, did you guys see who Tucker Carlson just interviewed?
Yes, Sam Bankman-Fried with his snuggle with P. Diddy.
Listen, guys. I know everyone watching, everyone in the studio, probably even Ashley, who maybe doesn't even know who Sam Bankman-Fried is wondering, what is life like in prison? What are you doing? Well, your answers are about to be, or your questions are about to be answered. Here we go. Real quick, thoughts on the look, the hair, the beard?
I mean, I expected a little bit more meat on the bones, but maybe he's been working out.
There's meat. Hair? It's not on the bones. It's somewhere else. Anyways, let's.
What do you do all day when you're not on trial?
Well, it's a really good question because there's not a whole lot to do in prison. I read books. I've started reading novels again. I play some chess. And I work on my legal case to the extent I can. There's appeal, there are other things. I do what work I can from in here on that, but the lack of other meaningful things to spend my time on is one of the most kind of soul-crushing things about prison.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. You think he's a good chess player?
Yeah, he's probably a great chess player, honestly. I mean, he
did scam everyone out of $15 billion, so
he's pretty smart. He is.
I think the best the most successful con artists in the world are a lot of times the most intelligent people out there as well. They're aiming in the wrong direction.
Yeah, he's a great psyop, and Sam. My biggest question is FTX going to be rebranded or continue to exist? Like, people, our newbies going to trust going back into that exchange, even with everything that's happened? I mean, people seem to have.
Unless it's
what do you think?
Unless it's a complete rebrand, no, because this made national news, right? So even the person that doesn't have any idea about crypto, they've probably heard the 3 letters FTX, and they put it in their mind. That's a bad company. That's a bad name, And so I don't think, unless it's a complete rebrand, maybe. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. What's going to happen to all the FTT token? That's what I'm wondering. It's going to be very.
I know, it's so aggravating seeing FTT pump every now and then.
I know.
Like, why?
Like, should I
what
trade
are we
this,
doing?
Or?
Oh my God! But it is what it is, Ben. So
what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Anyways,
you can't really
man,
control that.
Drew, just wanted to thank you for joining us, man. It was a pleasure. We love having you. We've had you on, I think, once before, but it's been a very long time. I had a great time on your show a couple days ago. And so, guys, if you're watching, if you enjoyed Drew, they do a show, I believe, every single weekday. I don't know about weekends, but you guys go on right before we do, so you can catch both shows. And that link is in the description of the video. Go subscribe. And Drew, thank you again, brother. Enjoy the rest of your day, man.
Absolutely, boys. Have a good rest of your show.
Take care, my friend.
Take care.
Ashley,
What?
what you been doing over there?
Oh, Chit-chatting.
We don't know, so tell us.
You're so funny.
Okay.
I've been chit-chatting. That's pretty much it.
You got any new people?
I do. I got Evil Turkey, Forerunner, Terry D. He said hi to me. Too Tall. I don't know how tall, but too tall. Mars 222.
Real quick, how tall is too tall?
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I don't know for you personally.
For me?
Yeah.
You know those people that look like stick bugs?
Stick bugs. What's this? Oh,
Something
yeah.
like the praying mantis thing?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the really, really big, tall people, but like skinny.
No meat on the bones?
Those ones. Stick bugs.
Okay, but, okay.
So what, like six something?
6'5"?
How tall are you?
6'2".
Okay. Then taller than you, I think.
Like 6'5".
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Anyways, Robert William, Chad Holland, Greens, Full Passion, Mike Hool, Agent Rivera, B. Matt, Rich, Adrian, Whale Slayer, and Joey Crypto. Yeehaw.
Can we get a yeehaw emoji for Ashley here?
Can we get rid of the gravy, please? I'm sick of it.
Let's replace the gravy with a yeehaw. I think it's fair.
Done.
Done. All right, perfect. Okay. Couple things. Now, Drew did mention big news out of Texas, and I'm not going to play the video because it was just them. Yeah, it passed, but they officially passed the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve Bill in the Senate, which means there is one more vote left until the governor signs it into law, which is going to be the vote in the House of Representatives. And so we kind of been hinting at this and sharing news about this. There's also, there was some big Cardano news as well, big partnership. We did post a short on that one. I don't think I posted it on YouTube yet, but it's on TikTok and it's on Instagram. We'll do a Cardano video tomorrow covering it in more detail. And so that's a big piece of news. And then you have this as well. You know, for me personally, I know a lot of people looked at Solana's transaction volume and said, you know, majority of it being meme coins, with the meme coin meta essentially not dying, but slowly withering away. Solana was going to take a hit. But according to this article, Solana's DEX volumes still rival Ethereum's despite the meme coin meltdown. This is according to a report by Van Eck. In February, Solana's share of total on-chain DEX volume topped 43%. They declined to around 30% in the month of March so far, which is slightly below ETH's 40% share. And so I've said this before. I said short-term, Solana suffers pain. But there is more to Solana than just meme coins. It's just that is what everyone ties it to, and that is what everyone's been using it for. But there's tons of other things that Solana has in the pipeline. There's just got to be a narrative shift for Solana. And so with that being said, when you look at Solana at $143, is this currently a steal, Robin? Seeing that they're starting to, you know, make back some of that DEX volume share, market share.
I still kind of in the same camp as I was before. I think that they took a hit when CoffeeZilla did the interview with the Libra token founder, and we just kind of basically the curtain got pulled on how meme coins work. We already knew the ins and outs of it, and so that's kind of why we were always like, hey, don't go all in on meme coins. Like it's hard to make money there. I mean, sure, try 1%, 2%, 5% or whatever it is of your portfolio, your little gambling cash, but either way, that's still bad taste in Solana's mouth. I think it's going to be a little while before it really bounces back. I would expect a short-term bounce back to 150, 160, but I think it's going to be later in the summer when we see Solana back over
Solana summer.
Yeah, I think Solana summer over 200, $300. I think it just needs a little breather right now, a little consolidation. Speaking of breather, Bitcoin is got a nice little bounce back. It up to, I just saw it almost at 89,000. It was at 88.9 a second ago. And then also a big shout out to our people watching on Rumble. I saw a few, we had Tunny, Mike, Xterra, Max the Bear. And so I was just giving a little love.
Bear, that's my dude.
Giving a little love over there to the Rumble community. Also, NASDAQ was pulling back. This thing is still around almost 3%. This thing's really volatile today. I did see it about 20 minutes ago down to 2.4%, but back closer to 3 now. So
I'll tell you what level I'm eyeing real quick on Solana. I'm a buyer under $125. Will we get there again? I don't know, but if it does, I'm a buyer. And again, you look at this value area that we have highlighted here. Every time we've come down into this region, we've seen a big bounce from Solana, including the more recent time, which we saw a wick down to 125, and then we went all the way up to 179. So
I think if you can get Solana anywhere near $100, $100, I think it's an absolute steal, man.
125.
Here's the thing. I don't think it'll lose $100 support. Now, anything's possible.
It hasn't lost $125 support. So
that's what I'm saying. And so I don't think it'll lose $100 support, but I don't know how far this downtrend goes. And so the closer you can get an entry point near or around $100, the better it is. You know, like what a steal, right? And so maybe it only drops down to 112. Maybe it drops down to 122. Maybe it drops down to 131. I don't know where the bottom is for this thing, to be honest with you. But I do feel like it's probably going to sell down a little bit more. And so if you can pick up any Solana anywhere near $100, 110, 120, I think it's an absolute steal. So I definitely will be getting in if the prices drop that low.
You also have a potential head and shoulders pattern playing out here on Solana.
Like if you got like a network outage or something, let's just say Solana was at like 135 or something, and then you had a network outage and like another one or something. I think the 135 plus a network outage, you could see maybe $115 Solana, and I think something like that would be a great entry spot.
Now, if we do get a breakout, your measured move would bring you to $87, like $90. I don't think it gets there. I don't think it gets there, but that would be the measured move if this head and shoulders pattern plays out, which could very well reverse, especially with crypto. One big narrative, one big piece of news that hits, it could change the entire structure of the market. I do want to give a big thank you. Today's show is brought to you by Legacy Network and the Legacy Academy app. I was looking at the LGCT token. There's very few projects and coins, tokens, that have held up very well in the light of the market downturn. And one of them has undoubtedly been LGCT, which is the Legacy Network or the Legacy Academy token that you can earn within the app. And so this thing, of course, it had a sell-off. It had a sell-off on an initial pump, but it bottomed out at around $1, and it's currently sitting at $1.54. And so this is a coin. Again, you can earn it for free. And in the meantime, while you're earning the money, you can also better yourself mentally as you learn about certain things like life, health, business, how to put up with a very annoying and loud-spoken co-host. A lot of things in there. Well, that one's not in there yet, but I'm trying to put in a good word. Either way, big thank you to them. There's a link in the description if you want to join their Telegram. With that being said, we are done for today. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We appreciate all of you. Any last final words?
That's it.
Robitus? Rocco? Nothing?
No, nothing.
Okay. Tornado out of here, baby. Let's go. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We appreciate every single one of you. Also, a big thank you to our special guest today, Drew. Tomorrow will be an even better show because it's Friday. And we got the Crypto Summit, a lot of volatility. Come join me tonight, 4:45 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to break down the charts. Love you guys. Until then, peace.
So every day stay tapped in. For big facts, no capping. With Bitcoin, if you're in, then you win. We divide the pie with no fraction. It's Big Rob, David. I spit the game, but they gave it. Name the coin that's your favorite. I got dry powder, why save it? To the OGs, new beginners. Special shout out to the well members. Buy the dip, sell winners. Ain't really nothing you can tell sinners. Tune in for the latest new flavors. They gonna teach us mean coins. They polarizing like barbecue chicken pizzas. I laugh with a major grin. Laggers, we trade them in. Baddies, they came to sin. And sinners gon' play to win. Screaming, hola, till my bags are flowing over. Hold ya to the moon and to the solar. Won't I? Don't be letting FOMO control ya. It's over when the finger tornado close ya.